I always giggle when people find me on TikTok. They go, "Ugh, you got me over here." Well, welcome. I love TikTok. I really do love the TikTok platform because I find like the community over there to be real community. Like the people support you crazy on TikTok. Mm-hmm. Like they do. Mm-hmm. They really do. And so I'll make sometimes TikTok just saying, listen, I appreciate every single one of you. I read every comment. I read every comment. And I'll like every comment. I don't always respond to every comment, but I'll read the comments. And like the regulars who show up in my comment section, I'll respond to them. But yeah, when that lady said to me, she was like, I can't. She says, how do you help people who can't get past certain sections? She was just on section 3. And I was like, I think I've encountered the first person to take this thing for real, for real.
So how did she get through?
She's still working through it.
She's still working through it.
She's still working through it. That woman, I'm not sure if she reached out to Alexis, but I think she reached out to like a coach to help her because so much was coming up for her. Just taking the first 2 sections. And the first 2 sections were just active listening and understanding, right? Like I was easing people in. You know, we didn't get to the lube. I didn't have the lube you up yet, right? Like we was just that's just a foreplay. Like you should still be feeling good, ma'am. You know what I'm saying? We ain't worked up yet. And she said no. I think she hired a personal coach just to kind of help her for what was coming up for her. And I was like, I think honestly, this is the first person that has touched this scorecard, started out telling the truth. And that may have been based on what she's probably been working on in therapy, right? Or working with somebody and like just being completely honest. And that's the thing. It's like being honest with yourself is hard. It's hard because you have been lying to yourself for a lot of years. And some of that lying, right? Like when we first started this conversation, some of that lying is the way we cope with our own traumas. There was a TEDx talk, a woman saying, tell yourself beautiful lies, right? Because sometimes the conversations we're having with ourselves, our self-talk is so mean, it's so ugly, and it doesn't make us feel good, and it leaves us feeling worse about ourselves. So tell yourself beautiful lies, the lies that'll get you through, the lies that will affirm you in some way, right? And I think that's useful until you start to truly believe those lies while living the life that you are still living. Like if you're going to use beautiful lies to move you, let those lies change you. We don't let the beautiful lies change us. We just allow those beautiful lies to be the narrative we give out to the world while we stay the people that we were before we started telling ourselves those beautiful lies. So I just think, depending on what your trauma is as a child or a young adult, the lie you had to tell yourself to get yourself through that, you will walk through life thinking you're that person that you've been lying about while living a life that's completely opposite of that. So that's why I said sitting with yourself is really, really hard. And I say to people, you probably are not going to get to the true answer of whether or not you have empathy until you get to that 5th try. That first one, you're definitely going to lie. First time you take that scorecard, you're lying. I promise you're lying. And you're not lying because you're not sitting there trying to be honest, but because you're lying because you're still sitting in the conditioning of who you believed you are and not who you really, really are. Because when do we have time to truly look at ourselves? When do people have time to sit down and contemplate who we are, right? And how we showed up in the world and how we continue. When do we have time? We don't often have time for that. Life is lifing. You got work, you got kids, you got home, you got, groceries, you have your pets. At the end of the day, you want to either unwind with alcoholic beverage, if you smoke, or, get lost in reality TV. When do you have time to truly look at yourself? So you mean to tell me life has been lifing all around you? You're going to download this empathy scorecard and all of a sudden you're going to get real honest? You're going to sit down with this scorecard the first time and you're just going to be so honest because you have so much time. This 25 minutes, you're going to tell yourself the truth. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. That first time is going to be a carryover from your life, from when you stop to sit down and do that. That's why I tell people go back to it. Take it when you're upset. Take it when you're really calm. Take it when you're feeling grateful. Take it when you're full of emotion and watch how much your answers change. Pay attention to the patterns.
So this empathy scorecard is not a one and done situation.
No. And, I've been telling people that since I launched it. I said, this is not a one and done. Don't take it one time and go, well, until I was very empathetic. I knew that about myself. Lies.
Do you take it?
I take it all the time. I actually use my empathy scorecard. I was saying to one of the young ladies yesterday at the thing that I use it as a journal prompt for myself. Like the areas or the questions that I struggled with or was really hard for me, I'll journal that. I'll take that question and journal that and go, why was this hard for me, really?
That's interesting, because that's a way that people who are taking it can use it as well, right? So it's not, here's this thing and now you get to go off. You can continue to use this and it'll evolve as you evolve in the ways that you use it.
It will evolve as you evolve. That's why I tell people take it at different intervals of your life. Take it at different times in your life. Like I designed it so it grows with you. The questions don't change. You change. And you will see as you take it, like, oof, I remember the first time I took this question kicked me in the ass. And I could answer this question honestly now. And this is truly true for me. Mm-hmm. Right? Like the first time it was my representative. You know how we talk about like on dates your representative shows up, the real you didn't really show up? When people sit down with this empathy scorecard, their representative is taking that scorecard the first go around. That's your representative, baby. That ain't you. You're trying to impress yourself because you have to confirm the lies you've been telling. Mm-hmm. If you've been telling people, I have a lot of empathy for people and I'm very empathetic. Do you know what you're going to do? You're going to answer those questions to confirm that lie. So your representative shows up at the first test. Baby, that ain't you. That was your representative.
What is that? Is that like still like trying to protect ourselves or... Because it has to be. Because again, if somebody is opting in to this experience, there has to be some reason why they're curious to know what the answers are. Because if you just knew, why would you take the scorecard? Like, why would you take the survey? Why would you do it? If you knew you were truly an empathetic person, I'd be like, ooh, Tammy got it. I got it. Good. Let me look on to my new or next thing or way of involvement. Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm curious. Like, who are the types of people who opt in?
There's two types of people. They're the people that want confirmation bias, right? They want to confirm for themselves that they are who they've been telling everybody they are. They want to confirm that they are in fact empathetic. So those are the first group. And the second group are the people who want to learn about what this empathy thing is really. They know what empathy is in terms of definition, but they're curious how I see empathy. So there's the people who are curious about, well, what is she saying about empathy that's different than what I understand it to be? And then there's the group I want to confirm that I am this person I've been telling everybody. And this is not me saying that people who are empathetic or say they are empathetic aren't in fact empathetic people, right? That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying everybody who takes this test starts off lying. But what I will say is everybody who starts this test, particularly if you have deemed yourself an empath, tell people you're empathetic. Be very mindful the first time you take the scorecard that you're not answering those questions to confirm your own bias about who you are. Because you could absolutely be that empathetic person. And the answers you give could be absolutely nakedly honest. I just want you to be aware that, am I answering these questions for confirmation biases or is this really the truth? And I was saying to you yesterday that some of the questions where there's an answer for neutral, there's a reason why I put neutral, because some of those questions you should be neutral on. But because you want to be seen as the most empathetic person, you want to get the highest score. Because what do we do on tests? You know, in this system we live in, it's about getting an A, right? So to get a result that says you're very empathetic is you getting the A. And so you look at the answer and it may be neutral for you, but you'll choose, I do it all the time. I'm always that way, right? Because you want to get an A. And in some of those questions, you should be neutral. There should be a balance to how you engage and how you listen and how you understand perspective and how you emotionally respond and how you help people. You should be neutral in some of those answers. But a lot of times people don't know which answers should be neutral, right? And the neutral is going to depend on each person. But I wanted some of the questions to say neutral because I wanted people to really truly answer that question and to some degree get to a place of neutral. And what I've seen is people who've taken the scorecard again that answered always, always, always said, that question now I answer neutral. So I have one customer that she bought when I launched this back in, I launched it in January. It launched January 26th and we are now in July. She's taken it 3 times. So I think that's pretty healthy. Like the first time she was like, that was me. I was lying. Because I wanted to be very empathetic, Tammy. I lied. First time she was taking January. And then she took it again, I think in April. And she said, I went from very empathetic to empathetic. She goes, and boy, did I get nervous. She goes, because I was thinking, my scores are dropping, my scores are dropping. And I said, no, you're just getting more honest. You're just getting more honest, right? And then she took it again the beginning of this month. So she's taken it 3 times. And she's still at empathetic. She goes, but I noticed my answers did change a little bit. And I said, you're getting more honest. That's all. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just getting more honest with who you are. That's it. That's it. So yeah, she's taken it 3 times since it launched. And I think that's pretty good. And she said, I'll probably take it again at the end of the year to see where I sit.
Who is taking this, right? Because I can definitely see this being like a once a quarter kind of thing, evaluation.
Yeah.
You know, like business people who love to operate in the quarters. So is this something that is meant for like individuals or corporations, or in what ways can it be?
Everybody, right? So the goal for me with individuals, because people make corporations. Mm-hmm. Like corporation is just something on paper. It has no power, it has no value until you put people in it. Mm-hmm. And then when you put people in it, that corporation becomes alive. Without people, it's just paperwork, right? So the scorecard was for individual people, but corporations can use it to evaluate who they put in leadership roles over these people. First of all, people with more empathy happen to be better managers than not. So I'm going to give you an example of that, right? So let's say there's 2 managers. One is very empathetic, one is not, right? You have an employee, and that employee just came into work and said their pet died, right? And I'm using pet because for some reason we think the only pain worth acknowledging is the death of another human, and not acknowledging that for some people their pets are like a child, right? So let's just say you're the manager and I'm a manager. You're the unempathetic manager and I am the empathetic manager. And an employee comes in and says that they've lost their pet. Now, the unempathetic manager is going to say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Mm-hmm. I'm really, really sorry. Are you okay? Do you need anything? And the employee may say, no, I just, blah, blah. And she may say, do you mind if I take the rest of the day? Now, the unempathetic manager would be like, sure, but can you tell me where you are with your work? Can you tell me, do you think you can at least finish that before you leave? Right? So that unempathetic manager is going to say all the nice things, but they're going to get right back to the work, right? Like they're almost going to bypass that you are having an emotional response to the death of something because work is what needs to get done. So they'll say things like, well, can you at least finish that report before you go? Mm-hmm. Or can you come in tomorrow and maybe a little earlier, blah, blah, blah. Because all they care about is the work. Mm-hmm. They don't even acknowledge you as a human as actually having pain and emotions. Now, the empathetic manager goes, I'm really, really sorry. What's on your plate that I can take for you? Take the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's essentially same thing, isn't it? But it's just like approach of where you come from. Like human first, and my responsibility is the work needs to get done. So let me put the human first, and I take this, and
I'll figure it out. The other way around is work first. The human have to figure out how to get the work done, right? And so that's how an empathetic manager would respond and an unempathetic manager respond. The unempathetic manager cares about the work. The empathetic manager cares about the human, and I will figure out how to get the work done. Right? And so the goal is that organizations use this in a way that, are we hiring empathetic people that will take care of our people? Because when you take care of people, and I said this as a person who's managed, when you take care of people, I promise you they take care of you. They take care of you. And so I want individual people to take it so that they show up different in their lives, with their families and their kids and their friends and their community around them. And also that organizations hire people that are those people that take care of their kids, their families, and their communities around them, and bringing those people into their leadership roles, into their management roles, and see how vastly different work gets done in their organizations, and how vastly different work gets done within their companies.
From my perspective, it's feel like convincing people to be good people so they get what they want out of their workers for their capitalistic agenda. Mm-hmm. It's like this weird, how does that, because that's how I'm looking at LinkedIn right now. That's what I'm seeing, is I'm seeing these people be like, look, if your end goal is you want your business to succeed, mm-hmm. be a better person. Mm-hmm. Why is that so challenging for people to believe or understand?
Because what we glorify in this country is not the empathetic leaders, it's the brute leaders. It's a take no charge leaders, right? Shark Tank, one of the biggest shows around business and blah, blah, blah. Look how those people engage with the people that come on there. And so we believe that that's how you get business done. You're to be ruthless, you're to be mean, you're to take no prisoners, you're to really drive in on people. And when you have that model everywhere, right? When you have that in the workplace, when you have that in society, when we talk about the business leaders who are that way, they're regular humans go into the workplace and think that that's how they have to be. Because we've said you got to be the Mark Cuban. You got to be the other person who's yelling and screaming and taking no prisoners, and there's no time for feelings and emotions and care. So when you have that modeled everywhere, as this is the way you get people to work, this is what you get people to do. You yell at them, you scream at them, you don't incentivize them with goodness. You incentivize them either with money, you don't incentivize them with time, you incentivize them with the threat of their job. So that's why you see it, right? We don't talk about the empathetic leaders who don't lead that way. That's not good TV, and for a lot of people, that's just not good business. It's the best business, right? Like when you talk to managers and employees who remember their best boss, it was that boss who was empathetic.
You were talking about this the other day. Like we make it harder on ourselves. We can't believe that empathy
is the answer. It's too easy.
Right.
Our brains must look for the hard answer. It's everywhere. I remember like taking tests in school, and I think most of us have probably had this experience, where you're taking a test and you read the question and you know the answer. It came to you right away. And you went, I don't think that's it. It's too easy. It came too quick. I'm not sure. And so you go back and forth in your head and you're like, that's what I feel the answer is, but that just came to me too quick. So you change your mind, you change the answer. You get your test back and you're like, that was the answer. Why didn't I trust myself? Because you told yourself it just came to you too easy. But everything says life is hard.
It does.
Right? So if everybody is saying life is hard, anything that comes to you easy feels like a trick. You then start waiting for the shoe to drop. You're like, oh, this came too easy. That was too easy. This guy showed up too nice. This job came too... Like, we have been conditioned to fight and scrap and pull for everything. So anything that's easy, anything that feels simple, feels suspicious to us. It doesn't feel like that's the answer, right? So when people say, what's the answer? I said, empathy. That's too easy. So how are we going to get better with racial equality in this country? Empathy.
Is basic human empathy actually easy?
No, but it can be. It isn't easy now because we have been conditioned out of it. But it can be if we condition ourselves back into it. That's why it's hard for people. We've been conditioned out of it. Okay, so I'm going to give it to you like this. So like when we were kids, we were outside playing. We could run and walk for hours and not feel it in our bodies. Like you end up on 3, 4, 5 blocks away and come back home and wouldn't even think that you just walked 5 miles. Our brain didn't even process that because it was easy. Our body got so used to doing it, right? And then we get into a workplace, we get into a school system, and we stop doing the thing that our bodies naturally was just doing. So now when you try to get up and walk 2, 3 blocks, you feel every step of every block. Something that your body was naturally doing that came easy to your body, you stopped doing that. So now when you have to do that again, you feel it. That's empathy. When we first come into this world, we first come to this planet, we come with this basic human empathy. We come with the ability to see each other different. This is why you see a lot of these posts where they have like the little black kid and the little white kid and they're running and playing and the cheesy shit that they put on top of it. Kids don't see the difference. It's cheesy, but it's true. So we come into the world not seeing each other as black and white and different. We're just humans interacting with other humans. And then those black kids are raised in a way that says, listen, life is going to treat you different. So black parents start preparing those black kids very early for what life is going to be. So what are we we're conditioning them out of that basic human empathy that sees somebody else. Now we're doing that for their own protection, right? Because we know the world that they're coming into. But to some degree, we're doing that to our kids, and we're kind of breeding that basic human empathy out of them. White kids are not being told anything verbally, but they're being told it in those subliminal ways, right? The white mom that grabs her kid when the black people are coming on the side of the road. So the white kid is noticing, mom only grabs me when black people are coming. Or they're watching the news with their white parents and somebody black comes on the screen and they're talking about crime. And mom is like, it's always these people, like they just can't, I don't know why they just can't live. So the white kid is hearing it, right? So in one way, the black parents are being vocal about the world their children are coming into, reading them out, that basic human empathy to see white people and white kids and blah, blah, blah. And that's for their protection, right? So we say, don't be too nice, don't be too kind, blah, 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 because these people aren't going to be that to you, right? And then you got the white kids over here who are hearing, seeing, and learning that they are somehow different and better. So now when these two groups become adults, that natural thing that they came into the world with, to not see people as different, to not separate people, that's been bred out of them. So each person is sitting on the other side of that, seeing each other different, feeling each other different, right? So now I'm telling them that they both have to get back to a place of empathy. That's hard because that black kid has a life experience with white folks that is not conducive to them having empathy for this group, right? And this white kid have all this negative experiences about black people. It doesn't make them incredibly conducive to having empathy for black people. And so when I say the answer to this is empathy, that feels hard because you have to breathe that thing back into yourself. That's been bred out of you. So anything that we come to the planet naturally knowing how to do, that we stop doing, that gets conditioned out of us, when it's time to do that thing again, you're going to feel that. You're going to feel it in your body. You're going to feel it in your head. You're going to feel it in your heart. Your whole body is going to be engaged in developing and cultivating empathy that dismantles racism. Every part of you is going to be engaged in that process, but every part of you has to be.